Okay, the first thing you do in the back here is you got to get this thing. And I've got a puckered end on it, and that puckered end goes up against the wood and kind of gets pulled in a tad if you want it to look good. So basically I put the wood up there, and from the outside I can see where the holes are. And I've taken a white fabric pencil and I marked across there so I know where everything goes. Now this wants to go and wrap around a little bit, so you got to get it right. And it wants to be squooged down by the wood just a tad. There's a triangle piece that goes up here we'll talk about, but you know, if you turn these things on, they work a lot better. Oh shoot, I've got big staples in that, so I'm gonna, and with the right staples, you get this started up here, and you want to pull this top in a little bit. So that's pretty good right about there. So I'm going to staple it. Then I'm going to let it naturally come out there a little bit. And then I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to clip it there so it makes that turn a little bit better. I'm going to clip it back here. Then I'm going to clip it in here to make sure that it bends okay. Okay, I've stapled it down to here, and I can't get the stapler any farther down, of course, because it hits this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a touch of this window strip adhesive, and I'm going to glue that on there. There's nothing really. This molding comes up a little ways and holds it, but I like to glue. That corner can come loose. So I'm going to take a little glue. And then I'm going to carefully, ever so carefully, put it on where I want it to go. Like so. Now I'll let that dry, and then we'll take an ice pick, punch some holes, and we'll put that strip in. And that'll complete that. Okay, the next two pieces I'm putting in on the interior, actually this one goes in first. This is an edge, and it goes in alongside just to cover up a little bit of gap by the seat. And this you've got to leave so it flips over like that, because you want to staple this, and you want to, well, I'm going to use staples. They had used nails, but I'm going to use 1/2-inch staples, and then you glue that back on. Now you want to leave plenty up here because there's a wood piece and there's a frame, and that edge right there is going to be covering that up under that wood. So I'm going to go staple those on. Okay, those moon-shaped pieces that I showed you had the edge on them, I've got them in place there. But the purpose of those is to kind of pucker this out and to cover the seat opening, so you want it in there good and tight. This right here, you want to make sure you got enough room for your flappy thing. And I'm going to staple this. I'm going to staple this. And it won't go all the way in, so what I do is I take a hammer and whack them a couple of times. Those are 1/2-inch staples, but my staple gun is not good enough to put them all the way through, so that should be enough to hold that forever. So there you go. Now next, I'm going to put this guy up. I'm going to change to a smaller stapler. but it simply goes in right here. And where my white mark is, I want to make sure I get my top there. And this leftover flap, and you can pull that so it stretches a little bit, but that's going to look like that. Get pulled over the top and glued. But I have to staple it, so you got to have this flappy thing back out. But I'm gluing this flap on here, as you can see, and then I'm going to be able to spray that. Hear me with my mask on, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead with that, and I'm going to push that on back on that board. Fold things over there. Go over that'll make a nice edge where that comes together. Okay, I got this stripping here, and it's a gray, and I cut it 1 inch wide. And what you do with it is you come and you put a little bit of contact cement. I'll zoom out here a little bit so you can see it, but it goes all around the inside. And if I zoom in on that, you can see I didn't go all the way to the side. I left a little bit of space there because you're going to put weather stripping in around that door. And then on the inside, it really didn't matter, but I put it up there. You can see it up around the roof there, goes on around, and it goes down in that corner. And it runs all the way down here and ends right here. So there you go. Okay, I think I'm recording now. This stuff's real simple to work with. It's a roll of putting on a top on a truck. And I've already cut this in so it fits in there nicely. And you can just cut it with scissors, but it's got sticky back and goes like this. And this one just follows the edge there. And gets over here, and then I simply take it and cut it and mold it in there. But it's a heat sticky back tape stuff, and it's works good for camper shells and stuff, I guess. But there's also a bolt that's going to go in here, and I'm going to take the liberty to punch the hole. But that screw has a big Phillips head, very few Phillips head on this car, but it holds the seat on, and it will come from the back like that and get the seat on. The reason I did that is with the sound deadening, I wanted to back it up to the bottom of this and match it up pretty good. So without having that in, I couldn't do that. So I went ahead and put it in. You might note that before I started this whole process, I'd put this board in, and I put some of the screws in, which are a big Phillips head screw, surprisingly. On a Rolls Royce, mostly they're slotted heads, but I put it in. It's got a piece of vinyl on the back, so in the trunk it looks good. But I put that in before I started putting all this other stuff in, so that was an oversight on my part that I hadn't done that. I'll put it in the right place in the video. The next thing I'm going to put in on the interior is the armrest in the back. You can see I've got it all stapled up. I added a little foam into it to pucker it out a little bit more. anyway, there's 3 screws here, and they're just wood screws, standard wood screws. You can see they go in there, they'll fasten up that way. Now there's 2 holes here, and these have two BA, and they're long. They're probably 1.5 inches long. But they go through the fender and then into here, and then they get a nut on, a nut on the back side. And there should be 2 washers there, which the other one I put in. I always put one in to make sure I know how to do it so the video comes out right. So I put the left side in, so I'll put that side in, but I got to hunt up 2 washers that look about like that right there. So anyway, we'll go put that in the car. Okay, what we've got here is a armrest. I stuck it in the car, and then I'm going to take my 2BA wrench, and this flap here gets glued down later, but you can push it up here, and I don't know if you can see, but I've got one of the 2BA bolts coming through the fender well, and if you got long arms, you can find the hole right there, and you can find about where that is. Okay, I got both of those started right back there and there through the fender. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do, I left them loose. Okay, I left them loose. And then I'm going to put right up here in this corner, you see the 3 screws, but I'm going to shove it down, and then I'm going to put the 3 wood screws right up in this corner. When I say I'm going to shove it down, this corner down here gets pushed down. This all gets glued along the bottom. So, the back part in there gets stapled over where those nuts are. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. Okay, you can see I went ahead and glued that down. And if you don't glue that down right there and make a nice little thing, the carpeting comes up to it, and there's like a hole that shows black in there. So I glue those down like that. You can see on the other side, I went ahead and put, that's just sitting there, the top piece. But you can see I shoved the wood in there, and I went ahead and glued the bottom there. But we're working on this side, so let's get back to it. Next thing I'm going to do is put this panel in, and we got wiring and all kinds of stuff, but I'm going to work over to the workbench. Okay, I'm over here at the workbench. You'll see the panel we're putting in. The right side has a cigarette lighter, which the left side doesn't. It gets this piece of wood, and it gets shoved on there, which I went ahead and kind of shoved it on there to get it started. But you'll see there's a crack in it there. And once I get it on the car, I'll shove that in, and we'll remember where that was, because we're going to put beading around here. And I've already put the beading on the top side, and as you go in, you know, this gets pressed up, but if you kind of pull it down too tight, you want to make sure it's got enough flex on it to come around, is what I'm saying. And then I'm going to put my other one on here, make sure I don't use the same end. But I'm going to start right here with this one. And when I'm talking about it, you can't really, you almost have to feel it. If you pull it up where it's snug, you won't see the beading. So you got to leave it so it kind of hangs over the side and the foam. And at this corner here, I'm actually going to pull it around here. I think this side I left with fabric. So I'm going to get that on there, and then I'm going to pull that around like that to hold it. So I'm going to start stapling that here in a second. I'm going to get it turned around so it's easier for me to staple. Okay, I've started stapling it here, and you can see it kind of wraps around. And I've also, where I'm going around this curve, you can see I slit it, and it's maybe a little bit over a 1/4 inch from the edge because you don't want that slit showing. And I'm simply taking the stapler, I'll start down a little farther, and I'm making it around that bend. I'm going to touch up the other end, but besides that, we're done stapling it. Okay, with the help of my wiring diagram, which I got from the Silver Cloud Society, which is an offshoot of the Rolls-Royce Owner Club, I know how to wire my wires up, which you can see them hanging down right here. I'm going to wire those up. There's 2 purple that go to the switch, and then there's 3 that all get grounded, and they get grounded on the cigarette lighter plug. I guess they call those accessory plugs nowadays, but this actually has a cigarette lighter in it. I don't normally leave them in there because I don't like people to push them down to see if they work. I usually have a charger for my phone plugged into them, but okay, to finish this off, I put the piece of wood in there. Now I stuffed some foam behind here because you want that to press back as you put the seat in. So anyway, that leather needs to be pulled up there a little bit, but that gets covered up the back of that. But going on around here, from this side, there's 2 little screws that hold the piece of wood on, and I've got all the edges there, I think, that look real nice. And there's 3 screws that hold this top panel on. So 1, 2, 3. So there's 5 screws in that side. Capiche? I slipped these pieces in the back here. Now you can see up along here, the headliner is continuous. Comes around, gets glued underneath, gets glued all around the rail there, loops around underneath. And then this board gets shoved in there, which is a moon-shaped sliver of a moon. And then this other board gets shoved in, and that's before I put these side rests in here, which are going to go in next. This may be an odd angle, but this is the armrest, and there are 2 holes in there, and they have a pre-threaded nut that's set in there, so they come in from the trunk. So if you got long arms, you can do this, and you don't have the back windshield in. Going inside the trunk here, that armrest has 3 screws in it. I said 2 before, but it actually has 1, 2, 3 that holds it in. And that's all that holds that in. The rest of these screws across the bottom of the trunk are for the back seat. And you'll see I've got those 3 screws in right over here. So got both armrests in. Now for the back seat, you can see here we've got a bunch of holes. And I'm going to zoom in here and see. I don't know, there's a threaded insert in there. I tapped them, but you can see there's one here, one there, one there, one there, one there. And we're going to go ahead and put that back seat in. Now before I put this seat in here, you'll notice I put sound deadening up on that. That had a felt sound deadening, but I put several layers of that new sound deadening. I thought it would be a lot better. And so anyway, probably about the same thickness. So I'm happy. Got a lot done today. A lot of videos made, got the seat shoved in there. I do not have it screwed in yet. It gets about 10 screws from the back, maybe 12. But I'm going to work on that. I'm going to use the longer bolts like I did on the armrests and pull it in. Here's what we got. I've got a screw started here. But what I did, if I zoom in here, that is a long shank. It's about, I mean, these screws are geez, 2 inches long, but that bolt is an inch longer, so it's probably 3 inches. But I started a bolt there, up at the top, you can't see it, but one there and one over here. And I pulled it in to where I could get these screws started. And these screws, surprisingly, are a Phillips head. So that's how you get the back seat in. Now I'm going to tighten the bottom first and pull it in now that I got all the screws, well, the screws and bolts in. But I'll take the bolts out as I pull it in, and that foam's awful squishy, so it takes a little bit. And where it goes over the back here, it kind of compresses the foam, so there you go. As you can see, I set the seat in here and it's just loose. But what happens is it gets slipped in the back here, and if you push on it properly, it slides right down in that groove there. Then you got your seat in. Looks pretty good, doesn't it?